You're listening to the Productive Therapist Podcast, the world's greatest and most brilliant resource for busy therapists who'd rather be laying on a beach in Hawaii. Each episode is packed with simple tips and inspiring insights from the Productive Therapist team to help you grow your practice and have fun doing it. So without further ado, let's help you get more done and have more fun.
Hey, look at you. You're back listening to the Productive Therapist Podcast. My name is Uriah. So glad to be talking to you today. So I got to have a fun conversation with my good friend, Amber Hawley, and she's a licensed therapist and a consultant who works with entrepreneurial individuals, executives, and couples with the emotional side of business. She's the owner of a therapy practice in Silicon Valley, the owner of 2 online coaching, consulting, and training companies, and is the host of The Easily Distracted Entrepreneur and The Easily Distracted Therapist podcast, where she helps ADHD and ADHD-ish business owners in their work, life, and relationships. Amber originally worked in the tech industry, but her love for people led her to pursue a career where meaningful relationships are at the center of everything she does. I've actually known Amber for quite a few years, and we've met up in person a few times at different events, and we always have fun conversations, fun and insightful, I would say. So I hope you really get a lot out of this episode. It was helpful for me, and I enjoyed talking to Amber. So take a listen and enjoy. Hey, Amber, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, genuinely fun to talk to you twice in 2 weeks. I mean, this is rad.
I know. That's like, we're really, maybe we should start this as a trend.
I feel like we have good conversations, at least from my perspective. Yeah. In the wild and recorded, of course.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm stoked about this topic today for a number of reasons. Primarily that I have multiple family members with ADHD and I want to know how to help them better, as well as therapists in private practice who we support through Productive Therapists, who are owners, who are ADHD gifted, and want to figure out how my team can better support them too. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
For sure.
It's a good thing. The more understanding and support we can give, like how much happier and better the world would be.
Definitely. So there's probably some people listening, maybe only 2 or 3 that have not had the pleasure of meeting you or hearing about you. So maybe we should tell them about the awesomeness that is Amber Hawley. How's that for a setup?
Maybe more. I know. I was like, maybe more. Yeah, definitely. Before getting into that, I guess like I'm hoping that, in the next like 30 something ish minutes, that I'm hoping I'll be able to give a takeaway about what, if you are neuro-spicy, I like to say neuro-spicy instead of neurodivergent, because I'm spicy, maybe it's the red hair. But also like helping the neuro-spicy, therapist, business owner, figure out how to feel more successful in and more efficient in the work they're doing. Or like you're saying, if you're a therapist and maybe a group practice owner and you have therapists that work for you that are neuro-spicy, like understanding how we can support them in a way that feels really sustainable. So my hope is that's the magic we're going to be bringing here.
Oh, we're definitely getting there.
Yeah. And otherwise, apparently everyone knows me except for 2 people. I'm just kidding.
Let's fill them in.
Yeah, let's fill them in. I'm probably what is it? I'm like the biggest smart ass of all of the people that we usually hang around with.
Agreed.
Yes. I like to have fun. I think it's the ENFP thing. Like it's like being blunt. I'm neuro-spicy, I'm ADHD, maybe a little OCPD stuff, little extra. That's why it's the recipe, right? Like there's this unique recipe. And, I want people to feel better about themselves and stop the cycle of kind of like overworking and then like crashing. So it's like this like overwork, crash. I don't want that anymore. I want us all to like have fun, enjoy our lives, because we didn't become business owners just to, work like a corporate dog.
To be an employee with a job.
Totally.
No, thank you. Yes, that's good. So anything you want to say about your background and your
Oh,
business?
I was like, you're already going to read my bio, right?
Yes, I
I
told them
guess
all about you.
I know. Yeah. I guess, yeah. For me, I feel like I have a very varied background, which I think is helpful, which is really helpful in doing like business consulting, coming from a marketing and operations background as a .comer before becoming a therapist, and then having those therapist skills. And then of course, like the specialties, my specialties are working with couples because, you get a lot of neurodivergent people who are seeking couples therapy, and also working with like neurodivergent people, ADHD, autism, OCD, bipolar, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of feel like I have this eclectic background. It's like I left the .com world because I had an existential crisis at 27, like most 27-year-olds do. And I was like, if the world ended, what's the value of my job? I was kind of in that space for many different reasons, and then became a therapist. And then it was really funny because then all of a sudden, like that whole tech marketing thing like came back. So it's like full circle of this is it. This is like, I want to do something where it feels meaningful and like it matters. I also didn't want to keep having like directors. My time in the .com world, there was like everyone was a director, and they were usually really inept and just stupid. Like, oof. I'm just going to say it. They were just really stupid. And I felt like I was smarter than them. And I'm like, this really sucks. Like this person is making like triple of what I'm making, and this sucks. So like the full circle thing coming back and now being able to use both skill sets to help business owners, but doing it for people who are making an impact in the world, I think it's like super fulfilling. So
that's awesome.
I just go in circles. That's all.
Random question.
Yeah.
Have you come across in your career, have you met other therapists who became a therapist after working in tech or in corporate land?
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course. Now, will one name come to mind? No.
That's okay.
No, but absolutely. Because I think being in Silicon Valley, you see that a lot, right? Even thinking about my grad school program, there were a lot of people that like they were either doctors or lawyers or engineers or, they had their first life, their first iteration of their career, and then they were seeking out to do something else. So I definitely see quite a few people doing that. Like anything, it's very rare for people to stick to one profession these days.
That's true. I was actually talking to my daughter not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, about her college choice and her career choice, and she's really, putting a lot of like concerted effort and thought into it. And I said, just remember, you probably will have 2 to 3 careers. So whatever you pick, you are not obligated to stay with that for the entirety of your working life. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually came to business through, I did it the other way around. I became a therapist first and then a business owner. And not that I'm in the tech industry by any means, but kind of went
you're a very techie person.
That way.
Once
upon a time, I printed business cards and I put on there the tech therapist.
Hey, but you have to try on those identities, right? Like because you get, and this is the thing, right? Like even in being a therapist, we go through different iterations of specialties, even because I can remember when I first became a therapist feeling like, oh, like I love doing group work, which again, full circle, I'm back to doing group work in my like programs, right? And I love it because I love the energy and the learning and like how it expedites things. But I remember feeling like, oh crap, like you're in a way though, you feel like this is what I have to do now for the rest of my life. And it's like, no, like there's people change and grow. And it was so nice to meet really seasoned therapists who would talk about, oh, in my first 15 years, I did this, and then I did this. And it's what makes us, I think, gives us a lot of value to our clients as well, that we have a very wide, we're all Renaissance people, right? Like in a way, we have all these experiences. And I told you last week on my podcast that I actually bought the social therapist because I wanted to like do like social media and tech stuff. Like I didn't think about the tech therapist for whatever reason, but yeah, I think it's smart. Hey, we're smart enough to know you should be buying those domains.
That's right. You want to know what's kind of funny is back in 2011, was it 2011? Yeah. I was speaking at a conference here in California. You know Camped because you used to live here.
Mhm.
I was speaking at the Camped conference, and my topic was internet marketing for therapists. Okay, cool. And what I was trying to do, it was kind of ridiculous looking back on it, but I was trying to teach all these therapists about the nitty gritty of search engine optimization, meta tags, all this stuff. And it was completely like misaligned. Like I spoke right over their heads, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
I know, but hey, you got to try, right? Like, because we know,
Yeah.
you know, the power of that though. Like, that was the thing I feel so grateful that I had that. I feel super comfortable with tech. I think tech is kind of like how people say, oh, I'm not good with math. It's like you are, but sometimes we equate that stuff. Like, we have those emotional blocks. And so like, when I started my business, it grew super fast because I was so comfortable with tech. I wasn't scared of it. And
Sure.
knowing that, I always tell my clients, we need to have that community marketing plan and that online marketing plan, which I learned from the Casey Truffaut, the very first camp conference I ever went to.
Yes.
I was just a brand new student, and I went to it by myself, and she talked, and I was like, oh, she's so brilliant. And, and so I'm giving her credit for that because it's hers, but it's true though. Like, we all need that. But yeah, like, I'm sure they just left feeling really overwhelmed and they hated you.
Yeah. And
Or they
that's
wanted
why
to
I
hire
haven't
you.
had any success since then. That's
I
the reason,
know.
the reason. Yeah. Well, thank you for mentioning Casey Truffaut, because she was my original inspiration too. And not enough people know about her. But I first read Be a Wealthy Therapist back in like 2008, I think. Was when I started my private practice. And I was like, okay, I got the idea. I can be an introvert and still market my solo private practice. So shout out to Casey Truffaut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shout out to Casey. Yeah. I think I saw her like 2009, maybe.
Okay.
And like, yeah. And then she did her own events, and I did buy tickets and the virtual events. She was ahead of her time. She was fantastic. Yeah.
Sure.
My OGs are Casey Truffaut in the therapy world and Marie Forleo in the business online world.
Very cool. Very cool. So I would love for you to define neuro-spicy a little bit, and then talk about how folks who are neuro-spicy, kind of the challenges that they run into as entrepreneurs, small business owners. That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, knowing, probably a lot of therapists are at least vaguely familiar with neurodivergence, neurodivergent people. So that term, I like neuro-spicy because, again, it's a recipe, and I feel like there's so much overlap in so many of the diagnoses, and like sometimes they have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and so it's like this blend. Of course, I understand people get actual diagnosis, but it's usually, well, it's not usually, it's ADHD, autism, OCD, bipolar, HSP, which people don't always think about that. I love that I can be on a place where you can just say all the acronyms and everyone's going to understand what we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
But highly sensitive person, dyslexia, dyspraxia, there's other ones, but those are like the main ones. Right. And so they're just the way of like that category of our brains work differently. And so just understanding that, and I think the struggle for so many people is this feeling of we don't fit into like the standard, like regular world, like how things are built, how we're supposed to, function. And so when you don't fit in, you obviously feel like there's something wrong with you. And so it's understanding that there's diversity in how our brains work, and we need to be embracing that diversity instead of trying to say, this is the singular way to do something. And that's where I think there's so much possibility. And, but also that's where a lot of the pain comes from too, is like this idea of like, no, it's not diverse, it's this way. And there's a lot of value judgments out there.
Sure.
Both to ourselves and from others.
I actually didn't realize OCD and HSP would fit under neurodivergence as an umbrella. That's interesting. Okay. But it makes sense. It definitely makes sense.
Right. When you think of it, you're like, oh yeah, that
what, just if you could take a guess, or if you know specifically, what percentage of the population is neurodivergent? Like, what does that look like? I wonder.
Yeah, I actually don't have the exact stat.
Sure.
I'm going to say, well, I think I heard something like 30%. Do I know that? I can't tell you where I'm quoting that data from. I do know as far as owners go, the estimation is 40% for just ADHD.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah, and I will say probably a lot of them, like I have so many clients and friends who are autistic ADHD. So there's usually like, again, the combos of things that can happen. But that's the percentage that I hear a lot, or that has been talked about. I think there are so many people who have never been diagnosed. So I'm sure that's also a difficulty. I know everyone thinks everyone's getting diagnosed with it all the time. And, there's always the diagnosis du jour, especially for children. But the reality is there are a lot of people who get missed. People of color and women tend to not get the diagnoses. And there's a cost to that. I didn't even find out until I was like 40 or 41.
Wow.
And it was transformational. And I think the only reason is like I had 3 kids in 4.5 years. And then, the hormonal changes, because there's actually a lot of research that shows like during perimenopause and menopause, ADHD symptoms specifically really start to exacerbate.
Really?
And so I think that's why we're seeing so many women in their 40s and 50s getting diagnosed, because like I developed these coping mechanisms long time ago, as a teen, even earlier, and they work so long. But when you're going through burnout, or you have children, and because that's burnout, let's just face it, there's a version of burnout. And then, the hormonal component, or being a business owner and just being so overwhelmed, like your coping mechanisms just don't work anymore. Right. And so we're seeing a lot of people there. So I guess I feel like the stat, whatever it is probably not indicative of the reality.
Sure.
I do disagree though. When I sometimes will have people, this is where I can be kind of a jerk, but like somebody wanted to be on the podcast, and the Easily Distracted Entrepreneur, and they're like, sent me this pitch, and it said, I think all people are ADHD. It was ADHD. And I was like, yeah, you're not coming on, because like, no, they're not. And you know why that's a problem? Like I do say digital ADHD as a joke sometimes, to say like, we are overwhelmed overachievers.
We're all distracted. Certainly.
We're distracted. We have short attention spans, but the ADHD brain functions differently. And so that is doing a disservice to people who are like genuinely can't function in that same way. So that's why I have a little bit, that's my little soapbox, that I get on. But I also, that's why I named my podcast, The Easily Distracted Entrepreneur, because so many people don't know. And while a lot of like the productivity stuff I talk about, or the ways to create systems and getting things done, while conventional ways don't always work for somebody with like who's neurodiverse, usually the other way around is usually a better fit. But I'm always advocating that every brain is different, and you really need to both do some reflection and figure out like what fits for you, and also like giving options and choices. It's just, we don't want to be, I've talked to, I don't know if I said this when we were talking last week, but there's this productivity expert who's pretty well known, and I was having a conversation with them, and they were like, well, when it gets painful enough, they'll just do it. And I was like, that's not how ADHD works, my friend. Because let me assure you, I can make a world of pain and still not do the thing. like actually we're really good at taking a lot of pain in that regard.
You're underestimating my ability to tolerate pain.
Exactly. I mean, we would all be masochists by that definition. I don't know. So we enjoy this part, but yeah. Okay.
I have two specific questions
End of soapbox.
Well, thank you for that soapbox. 2 specific questions for you. The first one is, this was suggested to me by a neurodivergent colleague, that to some people, the word productivity could be triggering. What do you think about that? Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for some people it is. And I think it's hard, right? Because on one hand, I do get it. I get I struggle because sometimes I'm like, words also go in vogue, out of vogue. And it's like, oh, well, my brain is used to saying that. So it's very hard for me all of a sudden to not use certain words. And I also think we give them definitions and power that maybe we shouldn't be, because sometimes that is the perfect word to talk about what we're talking about. However, being that I do work with so many type A overachievers, productivity becomes like the identity. And so it actually is keeping them stuck in that perfectionism and overwork, where it's understanding it's like, I know you've heard this saying, but like, it's not about being productive. It's about being, wait, that's not right. It sounds, they say it's so much more clever than me, but it's like the way of saying it's okay to just be. But I like the word efficiency. And even that, I've had conversations with people where they're like, yeah, that's not a problem too. And I was like, I know, I get it. But at the same time, like creating efficiency or creating systems so that we can effectively work without overworking, so that we can enjoy our lives, is to me what I think about when I think about productivity. I'm not thinking about mass producing widgets or doing work for the sake of work. I don't do work for the sake of work, unless, of course, I haven't thought it through and I'm not prioritizing and I'm avoiding something. So I'm just doing something. That's a whole different thing, except for sometimes, as one of my supervisors used to say.
Except for sometimes. Last year, I wrote a book called The Productive Practice. And of course, I put the word productive in there. It's in the name of my business, so it made sense. And there's a section in there where I'm sort of like addressing objections, if you will. And one of them is like, if I'm neurodivergent, will this work for me? And in the book, I don't go into a lot of like specific tips or strategies on how to be productive or just get more things done if you're neuro-spicy. But my point in the book was productivity needs to be personalized, because you could tell me everything that you do and say, Uriah, you should do what I do because it works for me. And that would be awesome, but probably not helpful.
Yes,
exactly. And vice versa, right? So it's got to be, you got to know what works for your unique brain, your unique life, and all those things. So I think that's true.
And I think, like, to me, well, and again, I'm in that space. I just don't. Some people get really triggered by it, and I would say, well, then you should look at that and see what's causing that. Because
talk to your therapist.
You might want to talk to somebody about that, like why that particular word puts you over. But it's, again, I think they're buying into this whole philosophy, and I think we spend too much time deciding this word sucks and this is bad, and instead of just like, okay, how about I stop obsessing over stuff like that? See, and instead focused on, am I living the life I want to live? Am I intentionally creating a vision and intentionally doing things? And do I feel fulfilled and satisfied with that? To me, that's productive.
I like it.
Right?
I like it.
So I love it. I love the name of your business. And I say they can all suck it.
So my second very specific question is, if someone, and this is just almost completely a selfish question, but hopefully somebody will benefit from this. But if myself was trying to get a hold of and get a response from a neuro-spicy friend or colleague or other business owner, what are some tips and tricks? Obviously, a lot of us struggle with email, and especially, it seems to me, especially people with ADHD, don't necessarily have a handle on that all the time. And so emails can get lost and dropped and gone.
Yes.
What do you recommend when you're having trouble getting a hold of somebody and getting a response for them?
Yes. Okay. I love this question. I'm sure there's going to be people where this is helpful.
Probably
right?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, even I feel like my world is surrounded by neuro-spicy people. Like, even my hairstylist is neurodivergent. Like, everybody who I attract.
Are you saying you're a magnet for?
I am a little bit of a magnet, which is why I am smart to do the business I do. Like, why not capitalize on things that come with ease, right? This can be a struggle for us dealing with others as well. I would be thinking, okay, is this personal? Is this professional? Do they owe you money? Like, there's like different approaches, right? Like, that I would be thinking about. In general, like if I'm working with a client and they're talking about this process, I usually will try to find out, is there a preferred method of communication, right?
Sure.
Most of the time I'm talking to the neurodivergent person, trying to help them. How do you teach others, like your team or others in your life, how to work with you most effectively, right? It can never be a mandate. It's like a two-way street.
Right.
But like talking about, this is a real struggle for me. Like this is not a good way to communicate with me, or this, like I tell people, if you're going to email me, because I have clients that I see all the time and, work with a lot. And I'm like, if you're going to email me something, you have to send me a message in WhatsApp or Voxer to let me know you've sent it. Because sometimes I catch it because I just happen to be there. But sometimes once it goes below the fold,
right,
it's a crapshoot whether I saw that thing or not. So,
the preferred method of communication.
A preferred method of communication is one. The other is like leaving space. So I guess this depends. Like, do you need to hear back from them, right? Like, is this an employee? Is this somebody, again, who owes you money? Or is it a friend? Like, not personalizing it. Because I will even have people say, oh, you ghosted me after blah, blah, blah. And I was like, first of all, 3 hours is not ghosting. That's called having a life. Second of all, often if there is a while time period between responses, I think we always go to like, they're mad at me or something has happened or they're avoiding me, rather than understanding that it could quite possibly, most likely, has nothing to do with you whatsoever. And so following back up with reassurance, I think is really important. I have a great story of this woman that I'm about to start doing work with. Like last year, I had said, oh, I want to do this thing. And we had a discovery call. And then she kept reaching out. I was going through a super busy time. I was just overloaded. But once I felt that I had gone past, like, oh, I should have responded to her yesterday, then all of a sudden that avoidance stuff comes up. And, sometimes again, we can talk ourselves into things like to navigate that. But I'm helping people learn skills. Will never be perfect because I'm still going to be ADHD. So it's never all, but I felt bad, like, oh, and often that's what's happening. If somebody isn't responding, trust that they're probably feeling terrible about it and stressed. And then the narrative is, now it's too late. Now it's so long and they're going to be so upset and they hate me now. It's the rejection sensitive dysphoria. Like, they hate me. Oh my God, this is such a big deal. So emotionally, writing a response, very simple response, feels overwhelming. And so if you can reach back out and so this person, she reached out, I want to say 10 times. Whoa. But she did it in like a respectful, in different avenues too. But it may not have been that much, but it felt like 10. But she did it really respectfully and was like putting it out there. And then eventually, like, I, again, learned techniques, but I was like, okay, I just want you to know I'm not avoiding you. Thank you so much. I've just been really overwhelmed, but I promise I'm going to respond. So that gave me enough of a buffer to come back and then be able to respond to her. And there are people that get pissed off and just like, you start to get those kind of nasty messages or edgy messages. That's only going to heighten the anxiety and the avoidance. Sure. And so I think when you can be like, hey, I totally understand it's that life is really hectic and busy right now, but I just want to, whatever the thing is, like, I just want to check in and make sure everything's okay. Or I just want to check in and see like da-da-da. And then kind of, again, it depends. Do you actually have to hear back from them, or would you like to hear back from them? It's a totally different thing. I have responded to an email after a year. And then I start it with, hey, turns out it takes me a year to respond to people. Because it wasn't urgent. It wasn't important, right? Like it was just but still it's like, it happens.
Yeah. So I'm totally going off script with all these questions, but it's fine. So
it is your podcast after all.
That's right. Dang it.
You are in charge.
Dag nabbit. So, I'm laughing at myself right now. So what do you think would be the ideal personality for an executive assistant or a virtual assistant of some sort to be paired with a neurodivergent entrepreneur? What do you think would be the ideal recipe, to use your verbiage there, between those two to have a good working relationship?
Yeah. Well, some of that's going to depend on because even with all what I have learned over so many years of working with people who are neurodivergent, there are so many different flavors, right? Like just like anything, where we can be so vastly different. There can be commonalities and such vast differences. And so like some people, what one person might find professional and enjoyable, somebody else could be like, that is rude and I don't like it. So you sometimes, you have to know yourself, know thyself, right? That's part of it. I was going to make a joke and say, because a friend of mine and I used to talk about this, finding somebody who's slightly codependent, because then they're going to be like making sure they take care of everything. But they can't be the kind that's going to have an edge to them when they like feel, I find through my years of having assistants and intake coordinators and people who, because I believe in outsourcing, I'm a huge outsourcer. The people who can't have direct communication and make passive aggressive comments or personalize something that has nothing to do with them, and then again, have this edge to them, I do not do well with those people. Like that does not work for me, because then I start to feel like I have to caretake you. It triggers like my own people pleasing thing that kind of balances that RSD, like, and also like, manage your anxiety. If extreme anxiety just doesn't work for me, because they overthink everything, right? Now, if they can have anxiety and talk to me about, hey, I just want to check in because it seems like you were a little short, then I can be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I am stressed. Now, again, I try to do a really good job of managing expectations when I'm hiring somebody, but I think like understanding your own process. So I know that if I have somebody like, and I had this happen actually, like, it was a little over a year ago, with somebody who was making mistakes and dropping balls. And then they were like kind of blaming me for them constantly. And then getting all upset about like, well, this needs to be done. And in my brain, I'm like, but no, I don't think it's a priority and it's my business. So I don't really care. I didn't say this. I'm very nice to people. I just internally I'm an asshole, but externally I can say nice things. But once there was kind of like this vibe of, I can't just have a direct conversation and tell you that I'm feeling a certain way, then I'm like, yeah, that's just not going to work. Like, that's not going to work.
That is so important.
I don't know. That was a really roundabout way of just saying, know yourself. Right.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. And this is what I'm hearing from you too, is that there's no like one recipe or one way that works with everybody, obviously. Right. I was thinking about a time when we got some feedback from one of our members, therapist business owner, that was using one of our virtual assistants. And she said, basically, she was a neuro-spicy 7 on the Enneagram. And I'm not a big Enneagram person, but I know a little bit. And she said, you gave me a 1 virtual assistant who's like the perfectionist, right?
Yeah.
And that was such a beautiful combination, because her virtual assistant kind of helped keep her on track and like really make sure that all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And that was a good combo. Yeah.
I love that you said that. That's helpful, because is that a healthy one? Right.
Yeah,
so that's the difference. Because sometimes ones can feel really curt and like they're angry with you, and they're not. Like, again, this is where like, having a conversation. It's funny. I'm a 7 as well. I jokingly say that all 7s are also ENFPs, are ADHD, but not all ADHD people are 7s or ENFPs. So like, I feel like if you're a 7 or an ADHD or an ENFP, like, you're like full bore, like you're on it. So, I'm sure there's an exception, but everybody I know is that, I think it's also like, what is the health of the other person? Right.
That's a good point.
I know that so if you're into the Enneagram, a lot of business owners are usually, the most popular numbers are 3 and 7. And we can understand why, like they're, the enthusiasm. There's also the people who are really methodical and just really ambitious, and like and they can be a good blend. But again, I think it's about like, I don't know, maybe this comes down to, are they an effective communicator? Does the style work together?
Right.
Because I've hired some people where I thought, oh, this is great. It's that same thing. They're just super methodical. And really, they just came across super bitchy after I hired them. And I try laying the land. Like, I remember I just think it was funny because I really didn't mean to do this. But in the interview, I said, I just want to, because I talked about being an ENFP. She knew what it was. And I said, I just want to make sure you can handle all my ENFP-ness. And then I stopped and I looked at her with like these eyes of like, holy shit, I just said that in the interview. And she's like,
E-ness.
Yeah, exactly. And she goes, I think this is where the interview ends. And that was funny. No, in a funny way. And I was like, yes. So I hired her, and turns out that was the last time she made a joke.
Oh no. Yeah. That's tragic.
Yeah, but you're right. I think sometimes it's having that balance. But even with ADHD people, there's such a diversity among that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so right. I follow, like I've trained in Dr. Amen's, he talks about 7 types of ADD. Mm-hmm. And I usually can have more than one. One of mine, I call it obsessive, but it's called overfocused. I actually, I am very organized. It's either organization or a shit show. There's no in between. Like, that's mm-hmm. just how it is. But I love systems and labels and organization. And that gives me peace to feel like my environment is like, whatever. So I'm good at that. And so, but I need somebody who's balancing those other parts of me that, can also, so it's finding that balance sometimes. It's that symbiotic relationship.
I think that's huge because if someone was to ask me, Uriah, what's the key to being successful? I mean, there's a lot of things one could say, but I think what I would say and what's worked best for me is to focus on my strengths. So figure out what you're naturally good at, and then hire for your weaknesses, right? I mean, that's kind of the way to go. So I think you want to hire somebody, you want to hire support that's going to fill in the gaps that you naturally have. And that's going to work, I think, most ideally. I hired a virtual assistant, I think it was last year or the year before, outside of my company, for a couple of different reasons. I wanted to sort of see what it was like, what the onboarding experience was like, and also there was other reasons that aren't important. But I started working with this person, and she was amazing, like so amazing. She would come to our meetings with notes and with an agenda, and then she would send me a recap email. She was fantastic. And she gave me the feedback. She said, Uriah, she's like, sometimes I don't know what to do because I've never worked with somebody more organized than you. I was like, that's like the best compliment I've ever received.
It totally is.
It was great. It was great.
I've never been accused of that. I love that.
Yeah. That's I don't know why I told you that story, but it was I guess to the point of finding somebody that syncs well with you and, fills in the gaps and that kind of thing. So I would love to ask you about practical tips, because I'm all about like, okay, so great. What do I do? For yourself or for the clients you've worked with or the coaching clients you've worked with, what are some of the kind of the go-to strategies that you've seen work for a good amount of people, body doubling or other different things? What would be your top 3 or 5? Yeah.
Are you talking about for helping? We'll speak to business owners. Sure. Because that's what your therapist, right? Like most of them are probably business owners that are working, if they're seeking out VA services as well. Usually,
but it could apply to anybody trying to get things done in their personal life too.
True.
Yeah.
But so usually if we're saying like, what are my tips to help people? Because what I'm seeing most people is either just being super overwhelmed and burnt out. Like those are the 2 big things, like they go hand in hand, right?
Right.
Like how do we get things done? That's what I like to talk about.
Perfect.
I usually say it in a different way, but like, how do we get things done? So you mentioned body doubling. I actually think body doubling is kind of a miracle, and it's like, it's so simplistic. It should not work. And yet it does. It does work for everyone. You don't have to be neuro-spicy, but it is really effective for neuro-spicy people. I, again, didn't get diagnosed till I was like 40. And I didn't realize I naturally did that. Like I would ask my husband, like I'd have like all these boxes of paperwork to go through because, and have to sit down and like organize stuff. And I would ask him to come in the room and just sit there because I just needed somebody there because it almost like kept me like focused and centered on what I was doing. And I didn't understand that was what was happening. It's very effective. I've been running online co-working. So that's essentially body doubling. It's very effective if you want to use it, right? But it doesn't have to be in person. Although I think in person is also awesome, right? There's a different kind of dynamic. It helps you when you're usually like stating an intention. And that way it's like, you can come back to it and your brain is like, no, this is like, I'm going to wander off. Nope. This is what I'm here for. I'm not wandering off. I usually combine that with like a Pomodoro method, whether that's the 25-minute working, 5-minute break or 50-minute, 10-minute break. And the effectiveness of that piece is when we have like that, a little bit of time pressure, it helps to keep us focused. We also, then our brain knows we're going to get a break. And it can be, you can kind of gamify it because there's times where you're in the zone and I'll see like the timer counting down because, when I'm hosting these weekly and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to finish these by the end of this hour. And so like, I'll sprint. Really, you'll go a little faster. You get a little energy in it. Right. And so it's just a very effective strategy for keeping you on point because really what we're fighting is distraction, right? Like we're all trying to gain traction in what we're doing. And the research will show the most productive people are people who the research has shown, the most productive people are people who say, this is what I'm going to do. And this is when I'm going to do it. And then that's what they do. And so you have to create a plan. That is probably the number one thing, the problem that I see with people. It's like, they want it to be like, I don't want to schedule. I want to be willy-nilly and, whatever. And that is great. You will not consistently be effective. You may occasionally get in the zone and get into flow because we can hyper focus and that's amazing. You will not consistently do it. You are also costing yourself a lot of time by doing it that way. So having a plan. I do weekly planning, monthly planning, quarterly planning, yearly planning. It's important. We do that in my incubator and it's like transformational. When you have that weekly planning that you do, it just changes things, and there's lots of components to that. I also think managing your schedule, to me, it's energy management, right? Like, so creating your schedule to support you. It's not just time management. It's also understanding when are my best energy times? When am I say like green energy is like your brain is like on, totally functioning and creative and you can process things and you can problem solve. Yellow energy is the like medium, like I'm here, but I'm not like at my best. And red is like, I'm exhausted and kind of like, I can't do much. Depleted. Exactly. And I will often say to the therapist, like, you should be seeing clients during your yellow energy because you are really good at being a therapist. This inside and out. You can do it at the back of your hand. You don't want to do it when you're low energy because you're not giving and showing up, but you don't need that green energy time. That should be for tasks that are super hard for you to do, that you are avoidant of, or creative projects. Like, is it content creation? Is it figuring out the next program or looking at your business and like doing strategic thinking? Like, that's the time you should be doing those things. So that's another big piece. As I talk a lot about energy management, and that to me is, time management's a piece of it, but it's really about energy management. Are you doing things in a flow that sets you up to build momentum? I always talk about momentum makers and momentum breakers. Are we building momentum? And that's using psychology. It's using, like strategy, or are you doing things that are actually sabotaging your success? Right. And often that's what we're doing because we don't think about it or we don't like take that step back.
That's a good insight.
Yeah. And so, I think those are like the big ones. The other, I say this schedule is the foundation because that is about energy management. It's about like figuring it out. So I always start my clients and I do a lot of trainings on like creating your perfect work week. There was one last one that I was thinking of that. I know the thing, when you talk about stuff all the time and then you forget, you're like, oh yeah, that thing I talk about every single day.
Right.
I think the number one thing, and all of that kind of goes into this, if you have extreme clarity on what you're supposed to be doing, and you don't have it really, like some people will go, I'm going to do this project today. No, it has to be broken down to the task level. You can just check it off and get things done, because when it's at the task level, there's less resistance to doing something. Because once we have resistance, then all of a sudden our brain takes over and is like, oh, I have to do this. All of a sudden I need to Windex, the garage door or whatever, like things are happening that, it's like, we're going to find ways to distract ourselves. I think it's extreme clarity. And that comes from like all of that, setting up a plan, being strategic, having that schedule. And I know we resist schedules. I also don't love schedules. There's ways to create schedules that you want to keep, like support you. And then ruthless prioritization. Like you can't have it all. And I'm sorry to have to be the one to tell you that. You can have it all eventually. You just can't have it all at once, right? Like if you keep trying. I tried for years to prove people wrong. Like I would talk to every expert and say, hey, so I want to do these 5 things. And like, can you tell me how? And I don't remember if we talked about this on my podcast. Like I asked Pat Flynn, I asked, like all of a sudden they all went out Bill Rancic, like a bunch of like really successful people. Yeah. This is what I want to do. And then the answer was always the same. You got to master the one thing, get it into like maintenance mode or flow, get it like, so it's clicking like clockwork, give Mike Michalowicz a little shout out here. And then add the next thing. And we do not want to do that. We want to do it all at once because it's exciting. Right. I have FOMO too. And finally, when I made peace with it, that's when I really started to see like my effectiveness, like substantially increase. You
made peace with what part of that? The fact that you couldn't do all the things at once.
Yeah. I mean, I could continue to do that, but I'm really costing my effectiveness. And again, that's where I go back to that effectiveness. Yeah. And it's so draining. And I had read all the books. I love the one thing. That's actually what my goal planning workshops are modeled after, the one thing. And I love essentialism. I read them at the same time. And yet I still was like, no, I'm going to beat the system because I am neuro-spicy special. And it's like, no, you're not.
Isn't it hilarious when you're like so educated and so many different things, and then you try to do the opposite. Yes. And you're like, oh, this isn't working because all the things that I know.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's the difference between knowing and doing, right?
Right.
And that's where maybe that's another strategy I'll say. We as therapists we love it. We love learning. I read a lot of books. I know you do too. Like we love it. There is no point in reading another book unless you're going to integrate it. So just stop and just slow down. Remember that, what is it? Business is a marathon and focus is a sprint. And so you have to take the moment to focus on what's in front of you. And again, I'm hoping you chose those priorities. I'm hoping you have a strategic plan and you're not just letting other people's emergencies determine your day. Yeah. Right. So
good stuff. So if you were to, I'm not saying you have to, but if you were to write a book, what would you title it?
But yes.
Okay. Everybody I talk to is writing a book. I'm like, oh, right.
Aren't they all? So this is this is going to make me sound so crazy and woo. I tell people I'm woo, not woo woo. I'm singularly woo because I believe in
just
science.
W-U, right?
No, just W-O-O, not woo woo.
Oh, okay.
But I actually got to the point I did my very first psychic consult for her to tell me which of my books I needed to finish.
Oh my gosh.
Because I started so many.
That is wild.
It's a sickness. And that's, and also I have to be okay with that. That's the ADHD way. However, the one, because I have a few titles, but I'll share the one that's being worked on right now that hopefully will be done by the end of the year is The Easily Distracted Entrepreneur.
I was going to say, that would be my choice. Yeah, that's a good name.
Revolutionary, right? The name of the podcast. I was like, why not keep in brand and talk about, it's fun when you get to do the work day in, day out, you learn so much. I'm like, well, why wouldn't I write about that? Like,
perfect.
Yeah. So that's what it is. That was a really long way of saying that answer.
I can't wait to hear more about that. I want to tell you about a book that you may have seen or heard about, but I haven't read yet. Just picked it up, just came out. And I think I mean, knowing what I know about this person and this book, I think this would really be attractive to people who are neurospicy. It's called Feel Good Productivity. And the subtitle is
Oh.
How to Do More of What Matters to You. And it is actually based on quite a bit of research and science that talks about, well, I can't really give a good summary of the book, but talks about how when you enjoy what you're doing and that helps you get into flow. When you get into flow, you get more done and it feels natural and it feels good. So it's not about hustle and hard work as much as it is about alignment and bringing some enjoyment to the things that you're doing. So
100%.
I'm looking forward to reading this book. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say just by the cover, I love the cover. I love color blocking, like, because that feels organized and like happy.
For sure.
Organization is my porn, so I love it.
Nice.
But I do say that, what was the subtitle? I say that a lot, like
how to do more of what matters to you.
Yes, do what matters to you.
Right,
like that's the whole point, right? But I agree, it is about alignment. The only challenge is, this is where we get stuck as business owners, is the things that we don't enjoy doing, we will avoid at all costs, and it can cost us a lot. Like I have the ADHD tax, right, is what we call it. And it can be really painful, not just financially, but emotionally. And, it can be relationships, all kinds of things. So yes, there is a way. I believe in getting into flow state and really capitalizing and outsourcing things you don't like. But there are some times where we have to figure out, how do I make myself do something that's a challenge to me, but in an effective way that also supports me, that, but unfortunately, I think we're at time, so we don't have time to go into that. But I am very excited. I'm going to check that book out. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send you a link to it.
And the only reason I'll read it is because I'm going to integrate it. No, I'm just kidding.
Amazing. I actually, the last couple of years, not last year, but the couple of years before that, I read a lot of books. Like I was kind of on a tear, and a lot of them were business books, and I kept a log and I put it in my blog posts. But I did realize at some point that I was reading a lot, but I wasn't really retaining as much as I would like to have retained. And I certainly wasn't implementing as much as I wanted to. So this year I just picked 6 books that I was like, these books will help me achieve my goals for this year. And I'm going to, if I read them slowly, great. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to highlight stuff. I'm going to like try to, soak it in and use it. So I think that's good.
I think that's a good motto for business altogether. Like slow down, do less, and it'll be way more effective. Like slow growth. Think like anti-hustle stuff, even though I sometimes will sometimes hustle is good, but we need to slow it down, and it's more sustainable. And it's kind of like that idea of just-in-time learning. Read the book that is pertinent to what your challenge is right now. You are more likely to integrate it, right?
Can I tell you my just-in-time next book I want to read? It's not the book I want to read the most, but it's the most just in time.
Okay.
So it's actually called Debt Free Degree, and it's all about how to help your kids get through college without student loan debt.
Oh, I love that.
I'm reading that one next because I've got a senior in high school, and want to help her try to start off on a good foot. So yeah.
100%. Yeah. And that's way more effective. Now that I'm not saying you can't go buy them all, because I buy a lot of books.
Oh, buy the books. Buy all the books. Yeah.
Buy them because it makes you feel good. No. But
at one point it will be the just-in-time book.
It will be. And then it's there for you. I like knowing that knowledge is secure right there. Yeah. And so I'm not you can read as many books as you want. So obviously I'm just but I am making a comment to people who they're like, because I've worked with people like this where they're like, I'm just going to read another book instead of actually doing the work that they know they're supposed to be doing. That's more what I'm talking about.
Procrastinating productivity.
Yeah, it's productive procrastination.
There you go.
It's procrasti-learning is what it is.
Can I tell you something funny really quick?
Yeah.
So I think it was one of the first times I met our mutual friend, Melissa. And I was, for some reason, I pulled out a power bank, and somebody wanted to charge their phone, and I pulled it out, and I was so proud because it had my brand sticker on it, like had my logo on it basically. And then she accused me of procrastinating.
Procrastinating, yes. Denise Duffield Thomas talks about that. Oh, so it's so awesome. Yeah. It's true. I need to do
right now is order stickers. That's the most important thing that I need to do right now.
Obviously. And guess what? As the business owner, you get to choose that. Just acknowledge that's what you're doing.
President of swag. That's me. Yes.
Yeah, I like it.
Well,
I like it.
Let's put a pin in it for now until we talk again. And I'm sure people are feeling this amazing vibe that you're bringing. So where can they go to get more of that good stuff?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I'm like, it's usually like, they're like, yes, I need this, or man, I hate her.
That's too
There's
much.
no in between. That's too much. That is way too
Change
much.
the
That's
channel.
fine. I'm okay.
Right.
Don't call me. If I'm too much, don't let me know. Yeah, actually, I would like to gift to the audience. I know we didn't get to go in depth into the energy management, but to gift to your audience, like a little mini training on energy management. And you can find that, and I think I'll put it on the easily-distracted-therapist.com/Uriah.
Perfect.
So they can go there, and so I'm sure it's going to be in the show notes. So go down right now and click on it so that it's saved, because you're going to forget, and then you're going to be like, "What would I hear? Which podcast?
Where
I
was
don't
that
know."
thing? Yeah,
go do that right now. But yeah, so that's, I would say, go there, check that out, and but I am curious, like for you, Uriah, like what was your biggest takeaway or learning from like what we talked about today?
that's a good question. Well, like I said to you in the beginning, I'm trying to figure out how I can best support my family members as well as other therapists that we help through Productive Therapists, without being annoying. Basically, I guess that was my goal going into this conversation. So I definitely took some mental notes on the things that work best for neuro-spicy folks to get things done. And so I can suggest those things and use them myself. And yeah, I think those are my takeaways. And also you talked about, not taking it personally, which I do sometimes for sure, because, I'm like hyper organized, get things done sort of person. And it's generally easy for me, right? So like, it's easy for me to take it personal when someone in my life or somebody I'm working with is like not getting things done. So that's helpful to kind of just like take a breath and then maybe talk about like, hey, how can we do this together? Or how can I best help you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. I know we didn't really get a chance to go, like, there's so many ways to go in depth just on like, is it like the family member stuff or is it an employee or whatever?
Sure.
Like
Nuances.
It's helpful, but
yeah.
But thank you. This was a great conversation. And
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Until we talk again.
In 2 weeks.
That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and hit the subscribe button to make sure you never miss an episode. If you're looking for more personalized help, you can reach us through productivetherapist.com. Thanks so much for listening. We are Productive Therapist, and this is the podcast that helps therapists get more done and have more fun.